Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find more episodes on any major podcasting platform such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and even on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure to follow and like Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook.
This is Taryn, and you're listening to Spoiler Force Podcast.
All right, so this is episode 61 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you guys for tuning in. This is another live, unedited episode on Facebook and Twitch. You can find the links in the description below. So this week's guest is someone that I am very excited to have. She is a tarot card reader, someone that I've never interviewed before, so this is very new to me, and I can't wait to learn what she has to say. So let me introduce my guest, Taryn Masterson. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Hi, I love that. That's awesome. I'm Taryn. I have been a tarot reader for 15 years, and I currently run a business doing just that, reading tarot by donation, tarot at Taryn's. But I get a lot of newcomers, and that's kind of what I cater to, because I like to make it more approachable, less scary,
So have you always done tarot card reading? Like, I used to always think like it was just the movies kind of thing. Like, I always thought it was just related to, like, you could say like black magic or like some sort of Harry Potter kind of thing. Is that just stereotypes of it, or is there something related to that at all?
So I always tell people, it's not like the movies, because tarot doesn't predict the future. Why? Because the future is not set in stone, right? We change it every day with every decision that we make. So what tarot does is it paints a picture of your life now, shows you where it's headed in different areas, and where those paths by probability are likely to take you. The underlying force that manipulates what card falls where in relation to your life is up to you, whether you consider it to be God, spirit, the universe, energy, good juju, or just luck. There's something to discern from it that helps you look at your life differently, more clearly, and then make more educated choices.
Now, have you always been around it? I guess, like, growing up, is this something that you decided to just jump in, or you were already like exposed to this kind of culture since you were like a child?
So I experienced my first reading with an older man who was reading for my mother with a regular deck of playing cards, which people do. And I was 4 years old. I still remember not the reading in particular, but the effect of it to this day, because it was just my first kind of brush with magic, so to say. But he pulled regular playing cards for my mom. I was 4 years old, and told her about her life and the men that she would encounter, and there would be this guy that would be stable, but there wouldn't be love, and then she would meet the person that she really loved, and that is kind of how things played out for her. So it's still interesting to me. But I always say the path is there, but we determine if we go down that path, or another one, or another one, or another one. So that's just likelihood. But yeah, that was the first reading that I experienced it for.
And you mentioned that he used a deck of playing cards, like just regular 52, like the gambling cards, just that?
Yep, like a poker deck.
Yeah. Now, I understand there's also like different variations of like these cards and stuff. Is it the same for every tarot card reader, or is there like different, I guess, genres or subcategories of these cards?
Fair question. So there are tarot decks, which are modeled after two different kind of streams of thinking. One, the more predominant, being the Rider-Waite deck. That is what I use which is divided into kind of two subcategories. So there's Major Arcana, which is 22 cards, and it's the major archetypes in life. So you've got the Fool, the Lovers, the Devil, Death, Judgment, those things that you see in movies, the big ones. And they represent big situations, big changes in your life. And then there's the Minor Arcana, which is 56. And that is like a regular deck of playing cards almost. So there's 4 suits, ace to king. There's cups and wands and swords and pentacles. They represent different areas of your life in small situations. So everyday cups would be romantics, relationships. Wands would be actions, things that you're doing. Swords would be thoughts. So you manipulate these different cards in these different categories into layouts and interpret the meaning of that card with the position that it falls. And that kind of paints a picture for you to analyze a situation or pick something apart.
And I guess the clients that you get, is it always different, I guess, then? Is it always just more of like the major category that you were mentioning about, or is it always something new that you get?
It's very dependent on the situation. I mean, usually you can tell when somebody is going through something tough because it's all big, major arcana. There's a big shift, stuff's going crazy. Or if you see a lot of numbered cards, then it's just little things that people get caught up in that you're letting be a bigger deal than it really is. So it's perspective.
Now, you mentioned earlier that you don't predict the future or stuff like that with the cards. It's just more of like, I guess, seeing the field sort of. Now, when folks do come in and see you with these cards, do you let them know about that as well? Because I'm pretty sure like people who are new to this, that's what they probably think.
So I book private readings every day. I also do live feeds a couple times a week when I can, and I mention that at least once every time and at the beginning of every reading, because I want people to know, I'm not going to give them something that isn't tangible, and B, they're in control. So a lot of people will come to me, when they feel powerless and they want some direction, some guidance. And I give them guidance to the best of my ability, but the best piece of guidance I can give them is that they are in control of their own life. They can change the direction of their future today if they don't like where it's headed.
And is it usually just like skepticism when people come to see, or there are some that really believe in the cards and what's being dealt, like are literally being dealt with the hands that you're getting?
Right. Well, I genuinely believe in the cards being dealt in the sense that, I think we're all connected. I think we're all the same kind of energy experiencing itself in just little human pockets, right? We feel we have this illusion of being separate, but we're all connected in my mind. So the cards are just a tool, an extension of that. And if you need a message, need to wake up to a situation, need to what have you, and that message can come from each other or a deck of cards or a song on the radio or what have you. But yeah, I get people that are skeptics that are booking. I read at Renaissance fairs, so I got people that were just had a couple of beers and then wandered in. They're like, "This will be fun for the experience." I made a couple of those people cry. You can get deep down to the emotional root of things really quickly, especially with drunk people in the heat of the day. Yeah, I get all kinds of situations. People that genuinely believe in what I do under different pretenses. I have people that are Christian, people that are pagan, people that are agnostic, what have you. And I like to think they all get something from it. I've not yet had a bad review from a reading.
Okay. Yeah, you on that topic with like the whole religion aspect of it too. Do you ever get like challenged by anyone that doesn't believe in it, or from like a different religion or faith at all?
Often. And if those people are open to engaging in a genuine conversation, then I engage. If it's just hateful and disinterested and wanting to just be nasty, then I shut it down. But my faith has changed and progressed over my lifetime. I think everybody's does in some ways, regardless of where they end up. And I am of the belief that there's value in every belief system, that they all have something right and probably don't get it all right, but they're all just kind of experiencing the same energy from their own perception.
Now, did you have to, like with religion being taught to certain families, or like for me, I grew up in a Christian household, right? So I grew up with those kind of values and the morals of that, the moral compasses of that stuff. Now, for you, with the whole tarot card reading, is that something that you kind of learned just throughout time, or did you study it like as if it was like a, I guess, like textbook or something like that?
So I'd like to say I feel called towards it. It's something that always pulled me, interested me, even when I was very little. So I was often gifted books. I was eventually gifted a deck at 15. I had a sister. I have aunts, both biological and not, that encouraged that pursuit. So it developed over time. But it was kind of, and like you said, you grew up in a Christian household. I grew up in a curious household. So we had Sunday dinners as a family, but we didn't subscribe to any particular faith. They were just, it wasn't something you really talked about. But I had the privilege of going to church with friends and going to synagogue, going to bar mitzvahs, and getting to explore and see what fit me. So I had a very different experience.
And with that, do you think like that's kind of helped you to just, I guess, relate or just see things in general when it comes to like reading cards to people with different faiths too? That way they don't feel like they're excluded or being, I guess, attacked or being pushed on by something that they might not believe in?
Absolutely. Whatever your belief system is, I understand, I support it, I encourage it if it feels positive to you and it helps you in some way. If it doesn't, scrap it. Figure out what else works for you. Figure out what you connect to that does feel right, that does move you in a positive direction. But I do think that having that freedom in life to grow and experience spirituality in my own way has helped me connect to people in different faiths more easily. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you do this to yourself too? Like, do you like read cards on your own? Like, just do it to yourself to see where you're at by curiosity, or is it only just for people who are asking to be read?
So funny, I really don't read for myself a lot at the place I'm in currently in life. No, I have in the past when I've gone through big pivotal moments, pulled cards and sat down with myself and really picked apart what I was going through and how I felt and how I was going to approach things. And I still will. I just, from doing it so often and reading for people, it's kind of like I don't have to consciously do that as often. You know what I mean? It's just kind of a knowing that.
Like you don't want to rely on it too much.
Right. And you have that, I already know I'm in this situation. I already know that I don't need this deck of cards to tell me what I'm already aware of.
Okay.
It's usually when you're not being clear with yourself is when you need somebody else or a deck of cards to tell you. But
so in a way,
when you have a deck of cards tell you, you need to break up with your trash boyfriend. You need to get off your butt and do something or what have you. You start acting on it because you're tired of being harassed, and then it's good and you don't need it as often.
Like, do you see it as some sort of like therapy then? I guess when people come to you
Absolutely.
for
Yeah,
readings.
yeah. I always make the joke that I'm a back alley counselor, alternative guidance. But yeah, no, that's absolutely, I'll pull cards and I'll talk through it with the person I'm reading for, and then usually we'll just talk back and forth about a situation until they find some clarity, some sense of peace, because that's all tarot is really offering, is that clarity of perception, of vision, in regards to the situation, whatever you're dealing with.
What are your thoughts on the stigmas on tarot card reading then? Because like we were saying earlier with how Hollywood, or like how the movie makes it look like, or kind of like almost like religion, right? Where people look at, I guess you could say like how Christianity or Muslims are versus like how they are presented in the media, and then when you go and meet someone of the faith and they're nothing like that. Is that what you kind of get to with tarot card readings?
Yes and no. I mean, people who read tarot are human. It's I would say it's a combination of spirituality, a hobby, and a personality type. Yeah. And those people congregate in Facebook groups and everywhere else. And you can see that they're just as human as any other group of people. There are plenty that are very matter of fact, very straightforward, see it as a spiritual tool. And then there are a lot of those out of left field, very much like the movies, whimsical, seeing your future. I don't get along well with those people, but they exist. We're a spectrum, just like anybody else. I think you just have to, like you find a good hairdresser, and like you find a good church, you find a good person that reads tarot that you connect with, and you make sure that it feels authentic, just like any exchange.
And you do this full time, right? For tarot card reading? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And how's that experience? Like just knowing that, people come to you and you have like clients, like how you were explaining, like it's almost like getting a hairdresser or someone in that kind of aspect. Like, do you feel like it's like a job at all? Or do you just wake up and do something that you like? It's just something that you do normally every day?
Both. So I was working full time until coronavirus and everything happened. And like I said, I've been reading tarot personally and professionally for over a decade. But after everything happened, I picked it back up, especially online, because I'll do readings over video call and stuff like that. And it reached a point where I wake up in the morning and I'm doing stuff for my website and to book readings and to schedule stuff. And then it's midnight and I'm still doing it. So yeah, it's it's definitely a full-time job now. It's more than that. But I also am humbled because I have clients all around the world. I did a reading for a lady in Australia who's a regular of mine this morning. And to just think that I'm able to do something that I feel is helpful and that I am passionate about, just like you doing this, and to see it as something that is sustainable, that I can live just doing what I love, is very humbling.
Have you had any crazy experiences at all with clients at all, like with tarot card reading? I think you mentioned a little bit like you haven't had anything like where people haven't lashed out at you yet, but has there been any readings at all where were they ever wrong, or were they ever like interpreted differently than what they expected?
No. I've had a lot of very good readings. The only like off the wall would be, like I said, the criers.
Okay.
People come in kind of like tense, walls up, maybe even a little overly skeptical, and it comes off as an attack, but they still want to humor you and have a reading and see how it goes. And then they cry and they have this breakthrough about their feelings or their mother or something ridiculous.
Do you think it's something like emotionally attached to when then people come to you for card readings? Like, do you think it's like I don't want to categorize people, but is like mental health kind of thing, or do you think it's just people who are curious, or is there like a certain trend that comes along with tarot card reading? Do you find
Absolutely not. I have a therapist who is a regular client of mine. I have somebody that works for Time that is a regular client of mine. One girl is a surgical student. It's across the spectrum. What it is, the common denominator is we as humans tend to lead with our emotions and let our feelings in regards to situations, our anger, our fear, our guilt, manipulate our view of a situation. So when you lay it out flat, decks of cards aren't emotional. They don't lie to you. They say, this is the situation that you're dealing with. It is what it is. This is what you can do about it. And that shift from emotionally charged perception to clear thinking is the goal. So when people come to me, usually they're at their wits' end because they're in a bad relationship, or they're stuck at a dead-end job, or they have a really awesome opportunity, but they're afraid they might fail, or whatever it is, where they've let themselves get in their own way. And half of my job is getting them out of their own way to see what it is for what it is.
Okay. Yeah, because like I said, I have no any studying on this stuff or not, so I'm very curious for the listeners who are watching this. Like the questions I'm asking, it's because I really don't have any idea on this. Like even when I was trying to learn up on what tarot card reading was, it's always just the typical stuff. I know the cards, and there's designs in the cards and different meanings and stuff, but to hear it from someone who's actually doing this as a job or as a profession, it's very mind-blowing for me and culture shocking for me too, because again, I growing up in a Christian household, I tend to stay away from this type of I don't want to this type of thing where because you're taught that it's dealing with black magic or
right. Dealing
with the spiritual side of things, so you don't get mixed up with that. That's what you get taught in churches and stuff like that. But Taryn, when you get caught up with that, when people tell you that it's not a good thing, that doesn't bother you, does it? Do you feel like you're being attacked when they say that to you?
No. I think it's just where your belief or upbringing or whatever fueled misconception has led you to understand. Like I said, when people are in a place to have a conversation, I love to have that conversation. Tarot wasn't invented until the mid 1400s, long after the Bible. It wasn't around in biblical times. And then when it was invented as a game. Tarot still in Europe is used as a game, a deck of cards for a game. But it got picked up for divination, for prophecy in the 1800s. So the correlation with it being, of the devil and the Bible forbids it is not possible. It wasn't even a concept in anybody's eye until long after. And I also like to point to the many places in the Bible where men of faith used different methods for divination and prophecy, the casting of lots and bibliomancy, flipping open books. People do this with their Bible every day, flip it open when they're in a rough place and see where it lands and use that as guidance. This is in the same class as bibliomancy. It's opening up to a random card or page and seeing what the message is and trusting that it's from your interpretation of the source of it all.
Yeah, because like that's I think that's what it is. Like people don't see, like they kind of want to categorize it to where like there's another deity or something that's in charge of that, right? Where you're, I guess, how people pray to God or pray to Allah, like with the tarot card reading. I think people get that mixed up with some sort of leading character of the belief in that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where the misconception's at, where they where it's already categorized or stereotyped into that. Actually, there's one comment here I do want to show to the listeners, and this is live. So if you guys want to comment as well, I will be showing your comments and we'll be commenting along with you guys too. So we have someone, Jennifer McGee, who says hi to Taryn. I don't know.
Oh, hi.
Yeah. So feel free to comment and give us your input as well. I would love the engagement of that as well. That way we can also see what you guys think of our topics here. Now, Taryn, like as I was saying, with how people interpret the tarot card readings, do they get that mixed up with like the whole crystal ball thing too, with the other concepts of that kind of stuff, like prediction and or like soul searching, or even like trying to speak with, I guess, the ones who passed already?
Well, you can use tarot for connecting to spirit if that's something that you believe in. Like I said, I always like to speak to people from their frame of belief. So I like to find out what somebody's kind of idea of their belief system is when I'm doing a reading, so that I can connect better to them from that frame of reference. Because it all just depends on what you understand and connect to. Some people I have done readings for that connect to somebody that has passed.
And do they, I guess, like the cards that you deal, is it something like do people think that's from them, or do you think it's just something that they want to hear themselves, and then when you give them or when you deal with a card, that's kind of like some sort of clarification or some sort of like I guess to fill in the void? Do you think is that what it is, or do you think it just depends on the person that reads the card?
Well, like I said, it depends on what you believe in. I believe in spirits, so that's not a fetch for me. It makes sense, and I do feel like I'm connecting. But if you did not believe in that and you came to me for a tarot reading, that's not what I would offer you.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
we would do something else. And, I do tarot readings for decision making and general life analysis and working through relationship pros and cons and strengths and weaknesses. And, it depends on what makes sense to you.
Yeah, because I think people like tend to get that mixed up too with the whole like connecting to the dead, or like we were just saying before, like with the whole movies, right? Like how a lot of the horror films or a lot of these ghost genre of movies, like it's always something that's related to spirituality, and then causes havoc, and how the movies end up being. So like a lot of people try to stay away from that. You haven't had anything like that happen to you though, right? Like none of that Ouija board type.
I actually have 2 Ouija boards. They don't work for me. I get nothing from them. I'm like, this is just plastic, which is funny for me to say because this is really just paper. But I get nothing from them. I don't.
Because I had a previous guest. We were talking about like the Ouija boards and stuff too, and like he doesn't believe in any, or he believes in spirits, but he doesn't like want to associate with that stuff. And then his fiance's really into that stuff, so he kind of like is kind of freaked out by it. So I just wanted to bring that up because like a lot of the tools that are being used for these connections and stuff, there's always they like I said, they've always shown like what it could possibly look like, in some sort of, it's like a fear tactic in a way. So if people tend to don't want to be associated, or they don't want to see any of that stuff, but coming from your end, since you do use tarot cards or even playing cards, and seeing that aspect of that, I find it very I don't want to say funny, but like it's, you're kind of like shocked by like, well, okay, so that, like, that's not true, like, or like how nurses who work in a hospital see how they do it on TV, is like, that's not right, this is not right, stuff like that.
Well, and TV is drama. Movies are drama. They take the basis of a concept, of a story, of whatever, and they expand it, they hype it up, they make it bigger, more dramatic, more intense. But just like any other aspect of life, spirituality is an everyday thing. It's not always big rituals and dramatics and light the candles, and it's me having a cup of coffee, and I've got a snack cake over here, and I'm just like, okay, what are we dealing with today? It's just an average thing. It's not, it doesn't have to be a big, overwhelming ordeal.
No, it's not like cult related or anything, right?
No, it's actually not it's not really related to anything. That's why I say what it is dependent on your belief system, because there's no belief system tied to tarot. People have picked it up, Wicca and pagan, and the Irish travelers, the Romany travelers have picked it up as a trade and whatever else. But it's not tied to anything, and that's the beauty of it, is that you can interpret it from your frame of belief, because it is just a tool.
Now, what are your thoughts on like the people who are like, I don't know if they still show it on TV, but wasn't there like a time where people who would, they would have like, I guess the psychic or whoever was reading or connecting with people in the audience, and they were like, does someone have like someone named, do you know anyone named Phil? And then like the audience member would like react to, do you kind of like, you know what I'm saying, right? Do you get like that?
I know like mediums. I am not one.
Okay.
I can, like I said, I can feel energy, spirit, what have you. I am not the communicator. I cannot pick up the message. I cannot relay it to you effectively. I know other people that are really good at that. I do personally believe that is a gift. Other people are more willing vessels, messengers. For people that have passed on, I am not that one. Go scare me. I'm like, I'm glad that you're here. Can you please? We don't have to hang out. We don't have to talk about it.
Do you get mixed up with that though when people come and
yeah, sure. It's generic spirituality. You probably do. Like, people have asked me to do like spell work for them, and can you tell me if when I'm going to get a job? No, I can't tell you when you're going to get a job. You have to go apply for jobs, and if I pull cards, they're going to say you've got more stuff to do, and it's probably going to tell you about yourself, and you're probably going to feel bad. So no, I can't predict your future. I'm going to tell you what you need to do right now.
So we have another comment from Jennifer McGee. She says, I know some people think that we just tell people what they want to hear during readings, but that isn't true. Now, I did touch up on that a little bit too. Now, do you get that often too, Taryn? Like when people are like, you're just saying what I want to hear?
Yes. And I like to tell them they're lucky. They just got a good reading, because sometimes I'm just downright hateful. Because if it tells you you need to get your stuff together, I'm going to tell you need to get your stuff together. Like, the problem is you. Usually the problem is us, because we're in control of our life, right? So we're not acknowledging something, or we're holding on to something, or we're not moving forward when we need to. Usually we're our own problem. Or we're letting other people access us in ways that we shouldn't.
Yeah, and I think, do you think that it's, if they get a reading that they don't want to hear, do you think they're just kind of looking for someone to blame then, if that's the case? Like,
Yeah.
you know, like,
Yeah, absolutely.
like for example, like Taryn, it's your fault that I can't do this because your cards are telling me this. Do you ever got like, do you think that's what it is? If they don't
No,
get what they want to hear?
no. My girlfriend who's over here likes to tell me that I put a good spin on things. I'm a spin doctor, make it sound good. But I don't sugarcoat. And I read things for what they are. I just believe that we always have control. And if it reads as something that you don't like, then it's a good thing because it's a wake up call and a chance to change it. Now you're seeing what the problem is. So if you don't like this reading, you can go out tomorrow, make it different, come back in a few weeks. Let's see if it's changed up. Don't come back if you haven't made a change because it's just going to say the same thing, only louder and more aggressively.
And how is that like? Because there's another comment. Jennifer said like the cards yell at people, which is exactly what you just said.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, is it the cards that come out? Like, is it a more, I guess you were saying aggressive card? Like, is it like a stronger type of, I guess, meaning to the card then? Like does that?
It's not one card in particular over another is more aggressive or loud or hostile. It's usually like say the issue is with your mother and you pull the Empress, which is the mother card. It's very overt, so it's loud, so to speak.
Oh, okay.
Like hits the nail on the head. Okay, we know exactly what we're dealing with, and you see this exactly. Like I don't even have to read the cards for you. It's very overt.
Now, each card that you have in your deck, do you have is there like, is it a general meanings to these cards, or are they all specific? Like you were saying, like the Empress was the mother. Does that represent anything else too, or is that always going to be related to like a mother type, I guess, meaning to it?
So each card has multiple meanings. They are just triggers for your intuition, ultimately. So we have like here, I'll show you on camera. When you play it back, you won't be able to hear it. But the Two of Swords is Two Swords. It represents having to make a tough choice, or being on the fence about something, or being stuck between a rock and a hard place, or being at a stalemate. They all kind of correlate together and can be read energetically based off of the image. There are things that lean to that meaning. But if your intuition calls you in a direction that isn't a traditional meaning, you're always advised to trust your intuition over keywords that are said to represent the card, because the keywords are limitless. It's just a trigger point.
Okay, so like each, you said keywords, so like each card that you would get then is just kind of like for like, I guess, situational then? Is that what it kind of is?
Yes, and I'm in the process. If you go to my Facebook page, Tarot at Taryn's, I'm in the process of developing a tarot training deck. It is basic hand-drawn imagery with keywords written on the cards to help with understanding and comprehension, making it easier, more accessible to learn tarot. Because there are, like I said, limitless keywords, but keywords for each card in their upright and reversed positions.
Okay.
And that can be daunting. Like we'll say, this is easy, right? The Lovers, you can probably interpret that. It would speak to relationships, strong connections, intimacy, love, soulmates. Those would be keywords that would represent the concept of the Lovers, right? So in the deck that I'm creating, it would say kindred spirits, strong connections, what have you. And then when you reverse it, so if it came up in a reading upside down, it would be something standing in the way of love or blocking your connection or a very negative connection. It's kind of like a reversal of that. So they have meanings based on their position, their inversion, as well as their place in a layout.
That I never knew. I never knew that there was like two different I guess drawings or designs with the card. I always thought they were just like always in one position, like if it's just like how gaming cards are, just one way, facing one way. I never knew that. So that's something I learned today about the tarot cards. I didn't know that they were both reversible and irreversible, or like the other way around.
Right. So they not only have multiple meanings alone, but then the inversions of all of those meanings as well. So the interpretations, when you put them all together, are endless. And that's, I think, lends to the connection for people that out of these endless possibilities, this is the message that's coming through for me.
Is there a certain way you lay out the cards then, or is it always just facing one way? Like if you're showing your client the cards, like you don't do it like in a square or like a straight line or anything like that?
So there are layouts as well. So a lot of people will do, for instance, they'll do 3 cards in a row, and the first one will be the past, the middle one will be present, and then future. So just a simple 3-card layout would be past, present, and future. And then if you pull the lovers in the past, it shows a focus on that relationship, that connection in the past, and you see why it's not in the present and where the shift has been. The number of layouts is as endless as the meanings of the cards. There are a couple of traditional spreads that most people use, like the Celtic cross comes from Celts, the Irish, and it is a kind of grid that walks through a particular situation. So it goes past, present, to future. Internal influences on the situation, external influences on the situation, things that are underneath in the subconscious, where we're headed on our current path, advice, and there are more intricate spreads like that that help you work through things.
Do you use any of those, or do you just stick to the 3-card layout?
I do 3-card spreads on live feeds on my page on Twitch. But in private readings, I usually do intricate readings because they're coming for answers, and then you really want to pick through what it is and why you're here and how you really feel and what's really impacting the situation so you can move forward.
So, with all this, like with the layouts and stuff, like it's not like a game, right? Like when you lay out the cards, it's always like the same formations when it comes to like these more, I guess, intense or more intricate layouts that you have for these cards. Like is it more than just the one, like the Celtic, or is there other ones too?
There are plenty of spreads. There are plenty that are traditional. It's so you'll lay them out in this formation in one go, and then you'll sit there and you'll pick them apart and talk through their connection to each other, their relationship in the spread, their relationship to the spread. And as far as, like methodology goes, which would be akin to game mechanics, you can then pull cards from the spread, set them aside, and then shuffle and pull more cards in relation to those initial cards to focus in on a situation that came up in part of the spread. So yes, you can make it like a living activity versus a standalone, these 3 cards. That makes sense.
Now, for the cards, have you ever gotten like cards where like they were opposite of each other at all? Like I don't know if there's like for example, like if you had like a life or death type of card, have you ever got anything that were like that didn't even really correlate and it still came out during a reading?
I understand what you're saying. So I wouldn't say that there are ones that negate each other, but in situations in like intricate spreads and things like that, there can be cards that don't make sense. I'll read them as they fall. I'm like, I don't know what this is saying, dude, but this is what it's reading kind of weird. I think something weird is going to happen. This is what it says. Usually, always, I'll say, eventually it'll come to light what it's referring to either during the reading, or they'll come back to me and they'll be like, look, I know you said, and I doubted you because I didn't think it made sense, and then this happened. So yeah, when that happens, I just read it like it falls and let it come up how it's supposed to come up.
You don't ever go through an entire deck, do you, when you do the readings?
No. So the like Celtic cross spread that I was talking about, that is a 10 card spread. And then the other Romani spread that I use is a 21 card spread. That's the biggest that I use. And that one usually takes a full 30 to 45 minutes to pick apart.
Oh, wow.
I'm a quick reader. I'm, where a lot of people will be lofty and theatrical. I'm not theatrical. I'm not that person. I'm very down to earth. People that come to me for that, because I am relatable and easygoing and tell it like it is. If some people go out searching for a tarot reader and they want the illusion, they want the theatrics, they want it to be whimsical, and ideally they go somewhere that offers that to them.
Yeah, because with these cards, I think of it like, do you get like, is it like 4 of a kind of like that too? Like, do you get more than just the one card, or are each card individually different when you pull out to read them?
So like I said, there's the major arcana, that's 22 cards. They're each individually different. The Hermit, the Lovers, the Tower, Wheel of Fortune, whatever. And then the minor arcana is set up similar to a deck of playing cards. So there are 4 aces. There's the Ace of Pentacles. There's the Ace of Cups, Ace of Wands, Ace of Swords, and 2 of Cups, 2 of Wands, 2 of Swords, all the way up to Kings. And they all represent different things. But then again, like if I'm doing a live reading and I pull a 3-card spread and it's ace, 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 I'm like, hey, you're about to start something new. This is brand new, fresh energy. This is about potential, about your options being open. It's like a clean slate. So it's kind of expands on itself.
Okay, that makes more sense then, because like I've said, I always thought they was just individually all different, like
Yeah.
like how gaming cards are always different, or what if it may be like like a poker deck where it's different suits and different numbers and colors and stuff like that. But yeah, that's really for me, it's really eye opening to kind of just learn about this, because like I've said, it's something that I had never learned at all, or even had any interest in up until I spoke with you about this. So it's great to learn about like what you do with this, and it's great to hear it from someone who's actually into tarot card readings and not just like someone who's really theatrical about this stuff. And I know, like you mentioned earlier, that you don't really like the people who do that kind of stuff. They play with it and make it seem like it's more than it really seems. Have you ever, I guess, called out anyone on that either? Like with people who do try to get really theatrical, do you ever try to call them out, like, stop doing that, or you're giving people like false readings or false hope kind of thing?
To a degree. So, like I said, support everybody's belief systems. Wherever you are, whatever you believe, I honor that. If I feel like someone is being intentionally deceitful or just absolutely being a sham and making this craft, this method, whatever, look campy, then yeah, I'm going to call it out. But if I feel like it's just their perception of what they're doing, then I let sleeping dogs lie and I just don't engage. There's a line.
Did you ever think that you were gonna, I guess, make a living off of this? Like with
Absolutely not.
No.
Nope, sure didn't. a couple of years ago, like I said, I've been reading tarot for 15 years. I've done paid readings for friends and individuals that saw me read at a party and take cards to parties and stuff. And then a few years back, I saw an ad on Facebook for a gypsy for the Renaissance Fair. And I was like, you know what? I've never done a tarot event. I've also never been to a Renaissance fair, but there's a first time for everything, so we're going to try it. And I applied, and they were like, sounds good. Let me come. I don't know. It's that imposter syndrome. Like, who let me in here? But but I did a 2-month run with the Renaissance Fair in New York. And those are 15-minute readings back to back with patrons. And so it really honed my ability to connect with all kinds of different people in a short amount of time. And kind of charged my passion for doing this professionally. So then it's just been a twisted journey to get to this point now where I'm fulfilling a dream. And I think that's just sheer stubbornness, and somehow people like me, which is sweet.
Yeah, I think what social media has done is given a lot of people with different types of outlets to do that, especially with tarot card readings or podcasting and stuff like that. I think it's been great to see how people can do or pursue those careers that we never thought that would be possible. Because usually, I think with tarot card readers, people think of it like it's like a small business building and stuff like that. Being I don't think anyone would have thought of to do tarot card readings over the internet and video chatting with someone, and then you still make money off of that too.
Exactly. And then I saw on Reddit the other day that someone is doing professional online Zoom calls as an animal counselor. So they will call you in your home and give your pet therapy, I think. But I'm just, if they can do that and I can do this, you can do anything. And I think that should be the ultimate takeaway from this podcast. I believe in you. If I can follow my dreams, as crazy as they are, you can literally do anything.
Now, do you prefer in person, or you don't mind the whole virtual, I guess, tarot card readings?
I have a lot of friends who read tarot who absolutely will not do online readings. I have people that can do them just over, they'll do email write-ups and send to people. I prefer videos so you can see me, feel that I'm authentic and connect. But I don't think, because like I said, I think we're all connected. We're all the same energy. We're the separation is the illusion. So I don't think we have to be face to face or whatever to connect and get something authentic from it.
Yeah, I think that's what's great about the whole video aspect, or the whole just over the internet too. It's giving people more options to do something or to try something different. I understand with this whole COVID situation going on, everyone being socially distant and not being close. It kind of makes us kind of want to stay away from each other more. And I don't know. I think once this stuff is over, do you think it's going to be the same after if this passes by? Do you think people are going to come back in person, or do you think they're going to prefer more of the video version of the tarot?
I think the world is forever altered for what we are currently going through. I think that ideally there will be a time where we are seeking in-person interaction, but I think it's going to be a long time. I think there's going to be a lot of hesitation, which is fair, rightfully so. Just out of safety, it's a survival tactic, to be cautionary. I think there will be a lot of that will be difficult to overcome for a long time. Hopefully we eventually reach that point, but I do think that this will be the solution to that for a while. you sit in your house and work from home or whatever, day after day watching TV, and then video call somebody and connect and laugh and talk, and it really is recharging to have that connection, to have that conversation, to see somebody, to be able to look them in the eyes. So I think this is a very positive band-aid, but I think it's going to be a necessity for human connection for a while.
And before we wrap things up here, Taryn, do you think everyone should at least try tarot card reading, or do you not push that idea on anyone?
Oh, I don't push anything on anybody, but I do firmly believe that from whatever frame of belief you come from, you can get something from it. I fully encourage and support all skeptics, all people questioning from different faiths and what have you. I welcome them all, and I'm glad to have the conversation. I'm glad to be the first tarot reading you ever had. That's one of my favorite things to be for people. I like that because I feel like I give a very down to earth introduction that's not overwhelming.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you for being so open and sharing your experiences too on this podcast. And like I've said, being the first tarot card reader that I have, this is very it's a great learning experience for myself to kind of just understand where all of this is coming from, and to not just I guess generalize what I think is what tarot card reading is. But for fans and listeners who are watching or listening to this, after we get done recording, if they are interested in your work, and how can they reach you?
My website is tarot@taryns.com. I do all of my readings by donation. No donation is ever mandatory, only encouraged and appreciated. You can find ways to contact me, to book, to donate, and everything else on that, as well as Instagram and Facebook at tarot@taryns.
I think I have I think I do have your information in the description as well for the for Facebook. I did want to confirm that I have your Twitch link correct. It's twitch.tv. Ren Alyssa, is that the right one, or is that
Ren Alyssa? Yeah, Taryn Alyssa, that's my name. So that's usually my personal accounts, but that's me.
Okay. Yeah. So for the listeners, there you go. That's how you can get in contact with Taryn. And thank you again, Taryn, so much for being on this podcast and for bringing more diversity. So, for the listeners, this is episode 61. Thank you guys so much for listening. And this will be available on all major podcasting platforms on Sunday, August 2nd at 5 p.m. around that time. And then there will also be a edited video version as well on YouTube. And if you are still tuning in, I do have a free contest giveaway that's actually happening still. The rules and the all that good stuff will be on the pinned post for the Spoiler First podcast page. The giveaway is like $50 Amazon gift card, and then $225 Amazon gift cards for other winners as well. Just read through it. The rules, I believe the rules should be simple enough, but if not, I can find them. I've had some people get confused with the rules too, so I had to message them. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, Taryn, I can't thank you enough for being a guest on this podcast. It's great to have you on. And if you ever want to jump back on again, let me know and I would make time for you for sure.
It would be my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right, so this is episode 61. Thank you guys and have a great day.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, share, subscribe, and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. For comments, questions, or criticism, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com or message me on Instagram at instagram.com/rickyvang92.